Over the past few weeks, I've been very interested in the idea of starter Pokémon. There's only 3 in any given generation, and their designs are very important in setting the tone and the art style, as well as giving the players their very first Pokémon of the game. A few months ago, I designed a region my very own based on California, and I thought what better thing to do than design a set of starters that could be the hypothetical trio for that region. I've now designed 3 distinct evolution lines, and today I'll be showing off the basic forms first. I should mention that despite these Pokémon being native to a California-based region, only 2 out of the 3 animals that these Pokémon are based on are actually found in California in real life. Despite that, all 3 of these new Pokémon will have biological descriptions that show that they do in fact belong in the California region's diverse climate, ranging from forests, grasslands, cliffs, and deserts. On top of that, all of them will take heavy thematic inspiration from California from a cultural perspective, and represent an overarching theme of a cultural melting pot. Meaning by the time we hit the final evolution for each, you'll see a powerful beast with inspirations from real-world animals, mixed with various legends and even contemporary cultural symbols. But I won't give away anything quite just yet. Lastly, I should mention that this video topic is inspired by similar videos made by the channels TrueGreen7 and Subjectively, both of whom imagine starter lines of their very own. I wouldn't have done this video without the inspiration of those very talented artists, so you should check those out if you haven't already. Without further ado, let's meet our 3 starters. First up is the grass line. When I thought about what to make for the grass type starter, I knew that I wanted to deviate a bit and avoid another reptilian grass one. I love most of them, but I especially like Rowlet and Chespin, since they're based off of less dinosaur-like animals that don't blend as naturally with naturey features, so they're forced to have unique designs. There were plenty of options within California, so I wanted to go with a coyote. There's plenty of stories in Native American legends across the Southwest, as well as Mesoamerican folklore, where coyotes and dogs in general are represented as trickster figures and symbols of death, the moon, and spirit worlds. So I knew that I could make an interesting final evolution with these motifs, because again, all of these starters will play into the theme of mythology or culture in some way, symbolizing a balance between nature and humanity. But going back to the basic form, I also wanted to combine it with a plant of some sort, obviously. I made the rule that it had to be a natural tie-in too, meaning the animal and the plant had to have some sort of ecological relationship in real life. So I couldn't combine a coyote with, like, seaweed, for example. I decided to head southwest and look at cactuses, which are found all over the Sonoran Desert, where coyotes often live and are associated with the desert. So with the coyote and the cactus picked out, that gave us our first starter, Cactup, from the words cactus and pup. These highly solitary Pokémon live across the vast southern deserts. They are very reserved, congregating strictly in small groups with others whom they trust. They are difficult to train at first, but they'll form an unbreakable loyalty to those who treat them with respect and love. Cactup take refuge from the searing sun by burrowing in dens, protecting themselves from predators by hiding out among sharp desert plants that they munch on for nutrients. They have poor eyesight but excellent hearing, and they use root-like nerves in their paws to sense vibrations in the sand. Often, quiet desert nights will be punctuated by the echoes of Cactup communicating in strange howls. Cactup would be inspired by dogs that are important both in Native American and Mexican folklore, like coyotes and chihuahuas. It also has a pretty smooth, tiny body that alludes to another Mexican breed, the Zolo. This shows that while Cactup may turn into something a little more fearsome soon, for now, it's very much a little sensitive creature that prefers to hide in its pack rather than fight on the front lines, but it can definitely be a trickster when it wants to be. Cactup also has sharp fur around its neck to look like cactus fuzz, and show that it blends in very well with its natural environment among succulent vegetation, despite the fact that it has tiny paws and can't dig dens very well quite yet. I also gave it big glassy eyes that kind of look like what you see in Mexican folk art, with candy skulls and Dia de los Muertos inspired artwork. One final thing to note is that these eyes reinforce an idea that I had, where all 3 starters kind of balance out because there would be a cool one, a cute one, and a weird one. I say weird because I've noticed that at least one of each starter every generation kind of has a dorkier look, or at least a less conventionally cute design that makes it look more mysterious or even alien. So if we were to assign these roles, Cactup would definitely fit the weird role. Let's move on to fire, where again I wanted to focus on a native California animal as inspiration. I looked at other fire starters and realized that with a few exceptions, most of them are mammalian animals. I thought about following that trend that people have noticed where each fire starter is a zodiac animal, so I looked at the options, but none of them really screamed California to me. So I took a creative liberty and instead looked north, focusing on powerful animals that can be found in the colder northern areas, like wolves and bears. I decided that I wanted to do a bear, since there was a lot of potential there once again in terms of folklore. Bears are hugely important figures of worship in Native American tradition. You can see evidence of that in Pacific Northwest totem poles. They represent things like stability, power, and wisdom, sort of the opposite of the trickster nature of the coyotes down south. So I thought that contrast would balance out well. I also wanted a bit of a nature tie-in. I realized that California is famously known for its redwood trees, which are massive, towering trees that have a distinct reddish hue, almost like fire. So I thought, what if I made a bear Pokemon that lives among the redwoods, and sort of had the fur colors to blend into these trees, and thrive in the shadowy northern forests. This gave us our second starter, the smoke bear Ursut, from the words ursa, Latin for bear, and soot, a black carbon powder that often comes with smoke. Ursut are feisty Pokemon found deep within temperate forests across the continent. They're harder to train, but they're unexpectedly powerful little creatures if you raise them right. Ursut have poor memories, yet are incredibly clever. To avoid getting lost in the woods and to help out their tribe, they'll leave trail markers by scorching symbols into trees that only their companions may decipher. They're usually nocturnal, typically staying awake and foraging under the moonlight, while lounging carelessly during the day to replenish energy. They have a seemingly insatiable hunger due to the fire in their bellies, which keeps them alive. So Ursut is inspired by black bears and the now extinct grizzly bear, which are two types of very powerful mammals that have roamed across California's forests throughout time. I definitely made Ursut the cute one of the bunch, giving it a chubby body that makes it look like a teddy bear. I made sure to give it markings that distinguished it from other bear Pokemon like Teddiursa or Stuffle, with tiny little eyes and a snout that kinda looks like a puff of smoke. I also gave Ursut sharp claws in both its hands and its feet. This ties into the idea that I mentioned of leaving markings, which was a Native American custom in dense forests, where tribe members would avoid getting lost by twisting trees and carving marks in them to show a path through the woods. And I wanted to give Ursut a theme of fire, naturally, so it's also inspired by the Smokey Bear campaign, a US Forest Service mascot made in 1944, which had a black bear cub warning visitors to forests that only they could prevent forest fires. So Ursut is a bear that lives in delicate forests, but it uses its fire powers in a smart way that doesn't harm its environment. So this gives Ursut a nice mix of human and natural inspirations, again tying into the theme that we're going for with all three of these guys. Finally, let's meet our water starter. Water was the only one where I actively followed the trend that has been established so far, because I felt like there was a lot to work with. If you look at all of them, they're all inspired by semi-aquatic animals, meaning animals that don't exclusively live in the sea or on the land. I thought about continuing this by doing a platypus, but that felt a little too much outside the realm of California for it to fit with the other two. So I thought about other beaked animals, wanting to do a bird. I wanted to do a scrawny little seagull, but then I realized that we already had Wingull, and I didn't want this water starter to look like a Route 1 bird Pokemon. I looked up shorebirds, looking for a really funky looking one. And that's when I knew I had to make a puffin Pokemon, something we haven't gotten before. Puffins are a species of auk birds, which are shorebirds that live in very harsh climates on rocky shores in the North Pacific and North Atlantic Oceans. They already look pretty Pokemon-like because of their unique faces and bodies, but I wanted to make one of my own. Given that these guys live in water-filled environments like fjords, cliffs, and beaches, there's also a big maritime aspect to it, where shorebirds like puffins, albatrosses, and seagulls are important in sailor tradition as symbols of hope, peace, and survival at sea. So that would fit in very well with California's long history of port towns like San Francisco, despite puffins not being found in the lower 48 states. This gave this Pokemon a clear water element tie-in, where it could be a bird that repurposes the water that surrounds its environment into its battle style and internal biology. So all of that gave us Puffit, from the words puffin and cadet, which is a term for a low-ranking crew member in an army or a navy. Puffit, because of their friendly nature, are often considered to be one of the easiest Pokemon for new trainers to raise. They're highly social creatures who nest, forage, and play in the mossy cliffsides on islands all across the ocean. Each Puffit colony has a vastly different social structure from the next, and leadership is highly respected within them. Their wings are incredibly weak, so they can't fly more than several dozen yards from the rocky shores that they call home, though young ones often do show a fascination for the sea. Instead, they use their rubbery flippers to dive and swim in cold waters at incredible speeds. So Puffit are definitely the cool one of the group, even though it's pretty cute as well. It's obviously taking inspiration from a variety of shorebirds, with the color schemes of seagulls on its head, and feet like a blue-footed booby. But I mainly wanted Puffit to look like the horned puffin, which can be found in the North Pacific Ocean on islands off the coast of Canada, Alaska, and Russia. I used the high contrast palette of white against navy to make it allude to a sailor-like uniform, with two of Puffit's feathers on its neck hanging down to look like the silk ribbon that you see on Navy sailor caps. So this reinforces Puffet's theme of exploration, adventure, and bravery, which fits well for its natural existence as a bird that lives in harsh climates, but also the tough attitude of seafaring crewmen. So now you've met the 3 starters of a brand new region. I hope I've been able to flesh out each one enough to give you a sense of what they'd live like in a varied environment like California, as well as the design inspirations that went into them based off of various aspects of West Coast culture and tradition. Once again, these are just the basic forms of a whole 3-stage line I have planned. And a week from today, I'll be showing off the 2nd stage versions of these guys, so stay tuned for that. Which one would you pick? Let me know your favorite of the bunch in the comments below, and I'll try to do them justice when they evolve into their next form. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more content.